Hi again, people. Well, here we go. We're going to do the bowline knot. This is probably one of the most useful and better knots out there. So the bowline knot is usually used when you tie something under load, and should I stick my glasses? No wonder it's freaking so dark in here. I was just outside feeding the horses, doing all kind of shit. I was like, shit, let me get this set up and do this. I have my glasses on, dude. I got some new lights behind me here, hopefully to make this a little bit brighter so when you're seeing me tie. So, the bowline knot. Man, what a great knot. This, although it's not, and I'll probably put this on my horse channel too, because the bowline knot is what I use a lot for horses, because when a horse pulls and set back on a rope, it tightens it, and it's hard to get undone. And a bowline knot, you can still get undone. So the bowline knot is, let me take a quick look on how it looks. That's kind of what the bowline knot looks like. So once you develop an eye for that, you will be able to identify whether the knot is tied properly. So this is a bowline knot. And the most common way to tie, and I'm going to show you like maybe eight ways. I might try the Eskimo bowline, but I don't use it a lot, so I don't really, I mean, I know about it, I've seen it, I've tied it, but I don't use it a lot. So the ones we're going to tie is the basic bowline with a bite, a double bowline, the Spanish bowline, a triple bowline, and a bowline with a Yosemite finish. I think those, I made a list over here. So, where's my list? Yeah, I made a list, and I don't know which ones I just covered. So we're going to do the Spanish bowline, the French bowline, the running bowline, the double bowline, triple bowline, water knot bowline I might show, the bowline on a bite, and the Yosemite. So those are the bowlines we're going to do. So it's a very versatile knot. I like it. I enjoy tying and messing around, manipulate rope. I sit in front of the TV and I practice all my knots, my bowline, my figure eights, my Mueller or Muter, or I mean, there's just so many knots that I've done over the years and I kind of forget them. So remember we talked about what a bite is, and if you watch the other videos, you should have a certain terminology. This is a bite. You take a bit of rope and it's a bite. So let's first do a bowline. So there is a overhand loop and a underhand loop, and the difference is when the loop is on the bottom. See how this is underneath? This will be an underhand loop. This would be an overhand loop. For a bowline, you tie an overhand loop. Okay, and I usually just do it. Some people will do it like you grab the rope, and you can use like when you're starting a car. You spin it this way, and it makes an overhand loop. I usually do it, I put my thumbs up and down, I grab the rope, and I twist, and that gives me my loop. It's an overhand loop because the rope's on top. So, once you get your overhand loop, you take the other end and you run it underneath. All these bowlines except one will be underneath. One goes on top. So you run it underneath, overhand loop, it's on top. You run it through the loop, around the back, and then back down the loop. And that is your bowline. And that's what it looks like. And of course we would dress it, make it look neat and tight. Tighten up when you dress a knot. I usually pull all ropes to make sure it's tight. So this is a rope, this is a rope, this is a rope, and this is a rope. And that's how I dress a knot. And that looks like a nice tied bowline. That is your basic bowline. So, and again, when you get used to it, I usually just flip it. I take my end, the rabbit runs out the hole, around the tree, and then back down the hole. And you have your bowline. Okay? That's what it looks like. Developing the eye is critical. Learning how to dress it. Now this is a bowline, but I'm going to mess it up and make it look like not a bowline. So let's do this here. There. Now that's a bowline. Does that look like a bowline? Of course not. It's not. It's all funky. It's not tied right. But if I bring this down, line these two up, because I know these two always come part of the loop, and I have this loop here, I've got one in the back, loop is right here, dress it up, now it's a bowline, and it's easy to identify with the light. or with the visual. So that's a bowline. The purpose of the bowline is you can throw it over to tie a boat. You can throw it over things. It's very strong. You could technically rappel off it. I don't use this because the figure 8 is a little bit stronger. This bowline knot is good when I have pressure this way on the knot. It's good. If I put pressure on not the axis like so, and I keep doing this, watch this rope get shorter. See how my little tail just shrunk? I know, it's kind of like cold water sometimes. So that's why this knot is designed for pressure this way. The axis of the knot is this way. This is where the pressure. It's not really made for pressure this way. Now there is the water bowline that holds a little bit better, and I think there's one other one that you could tie for better, but I'm going to use, if I'm rappelling, I'm doing a figure 8. A figure 8 is stronger, this knot, and it's less likely to come untied. This knot's main absolute advantage, one, it's strong, and two, after you put it on load, after a horse pulls on it, after you tow a car with it, after you pick up and load lumber up and down all day, this knot comes undone easy by folding it over, and I just call it breaking the little neck right here, and the knot will come and fall apart. So, bowline knot, great knot. And again, we're going to do it a lot of ways, but I really want you to get this one because all these other ones are modifications of the basic. Okay, overhand loop, up, the hole, around, and then back down. And when it's tied, it looks like that. Okay, pretty easy. Okay, so now let's go with the Yosemite finish on a bowline. This is a touchy knot because if you do it wrong, even if you do it right, if you set and dress the knot wrong, it's not a bowline. So, we have our bowline, but my tail is a little short, and I will make this longer. Let's just untie it, and we'll tie another bowline again. And I'm going to tie it way up here so we got plenty of room. My little loop, rabbit's coming out of the hole, around the hole, and back down the hole. Now this is where you can adjust how long this is, because when you adjust this, your loop gets smaller. So the more I pull this, the smaller my loop gets. See that? Because it's not tightened down. So as I'm pulling this, my loop's getting smaller. If I want to make this shorter, my loop gets bigger. So I can adjust the loop or my tail. On this knot, I want a longer tail because I'm going to show you the soon finish. So, now that the knot is how I want it, I set it. And when you set a bowline, you usually pull on these two ropes here and this here. And that's a good set. If you pull over here, it sets this loop, and that should be set later. Now I could set that now and pull on this. But ideally, when you first set it, I want this really good. So, Yosemite, you take your tail, and you notice how it lays kind of like inside the middle of the loop. So here's my loop, and the tail is always kind of these two right here. The tail's kind of always in the middle. So I'm going to take my loop, and we talked about the term rethreading. I'm going to rethread this loop right here with my loose end. But I want to go behind the knot. This is where people mess this up. So they will go this way and go in front of the knot. You want to go behind this. Come around here and go behind. And then I'm going to thread this. And if you'll notice, this rope right here goes right around and comes out this little neck right here. So this piece is going to come out this neck right back here, like so. But after I go around, this is called a Yosemite finish. You take this, I wrap it around, I trace it up, and then I put it through the back of the neck because I'm following this line right here. And now I have a bowline with a Yosemite finish. 2 here and 2 coming out the neck. So the Yosemite finish, and I might do these on a table laying down with a close-up view, and I'll try to slide them in because I'm trying to keep it in here so you can see it actually being tied. So to untie this, and what this does is, remember earlier when I did this and my knot was shorting? This stops this tail from shrinking up and going away. because it's got another loop and it's coming out here, and as you put pressure on here, it tightens on here. So you've really got to get this tail all the way out of here, and then it's got to go all the way up here in order for it to come and slip loose, which is why the Yosemite finish is a good little finish for a knot. Do it one more time, kind of quick. I have a bowline. I take my bowline, I go outside this loop, behind and outside, and then I trace this knot straight up, and I come back out the back like so. And then I tighten that up, and that is my Yosemite finish. Now, I talked about why this is a bad knot if you do it wrong. Right now, if I set this knot, and I usually want to set the top one first, which is the original bowline, and then I will set my Yosemite, which is the bottom, and I will pull it. And see how it tightens up? See how it kind of wants to come under this knot? That's the problem. That's what you got to be careful of. So, how you test your Yosemite to make sure if you're tying and practicing to make sure it's right is if I untie the Yosemite finish, which means I just pull out this tail, when I pull it out, I should have still a bowline. I still have a bowline. That means I did it right, okay? Yosemite tail come out, I still have my bowline knot. Now here's where people mess it up. They don't set the knot, and this knot is loose here. So I'm going to do my Yosemite finish, I'm going to trace it around, and I'm going to come back up, right? I did the exact knot. I actually tied this knot correctly. This is a Yosemite finish. Now instead of setting my knot first, I'm going to set the Yosemite finish first and watch what happens right under this loop. I'm going to set my Yosemite finish first, and what happens is it slides underneath. And now when I set my knot, it looks like a Yosemite finish. I got two here and I got two here. What's different? When I untied my tail earlier, remember, I had a bowline. Now I'm going to untie my tail and watch what happens. So I have my knot set, looks like it's right, two at the bottom, Yosemite finish. But because I let these two loops switch places, when I untie my tail, I no longer have a bowline. I don't know what it is, but it ain't a bowline. And that's where you get in trouble when you do the Yosemite finish wrong. Some people call it a death knot and they just won't use it. They think it's a bad finish. I like it. I got no problem with it. You flip it, you tie your bowline up, around, make sure you got a long enough tail to run it through. I come down, I set my bowline, I come back around the back, up under, follow it through the back loop. I have a good Yosemite finish. I have a good bowline. I have two knots really secure here, and I have two ropes back here. I got no problem with this knot. But if you tie it wrong or you tighten it wrong, and you tighten this one to where it comes underneath before you tighten this top one, by doing this, when I pull this, this knot tightens. When I pull this, this one tightens. So, look, once you get it set, it's a great knot. That's the bowline with the Yosemite finish. Yosemite Sam. Okay, what do we want to do next? Let's do the double bowline, because I kind of like that, and it looks like the Yosemite finish. So, double bowline. Single bowline, we get our loop, we come up and around. On the double bowline, I'm making this loop twice. So I'm just going to trace it the same way, and now I have two overhand loops. I want to keep those straight. I'm going to come up, out the hole just like I did before, around the tree, and then back down, and I have a nice double bowline. Almost like the Yosemite Sam, except it's down here, but I still have two at the bottom. Really, really secure knot. Makes your bowline a little bit more secure. I like the double bowline, okay? Double bowline looks a lot like the Yosemite finish. Remember that. So that was the double bowline. Pretty simple. I'll do it one more time, in case you want to do it with me. I do the same overhand, but instead of coming up and around and doing my bowline, I will go ahead and rethread a second one right on top there. I just set it right on top. So I have two of the same size. And then I run up, around, and down, and then I set it. You notice when I set it, it sets the bottom one, and then when I pull this, it sets the top loop. Then I pull this, and I set the bottom, then I set the top. And man, that is a good, strong bowline. Like the double bowline. What's another old bowline? And again, the greatest thing about this knot is after you pull and put all this tension, you can untie it and you don't lose your rope. So you can reuse your rope for other things. If you tie a figure eight and you let a horse sit and pull on it, you're going to play hell getting that figure eight out. Probably end up cutting a rope. So a bowline is more of my horse knot than a figure eight. My repelling for an anchor points, a figure eight's my go-to. It's a little bit stronger, it's not going to come untied. What was the other one? Well, we can do the French bowline. French bowline is kind of, which is a good follow-through for this one. Remember we just did the double bowline, which is here, and we make two loops for the double bowline. The French bowline is about the same thing, except instead of making two loops here, I'm making two loops here. So I got to have a lot of working in. So I do my bowline, I do my overhand twist, I bring my end down, I come up, and instead of going around and down, I make my loop, and then I make a second loop. And these will equal out after I'm finished. Then I go around the tree and back down the hole. But Rick, it looks like that knot is, you got one bigger one. They equal out as you pull because this one moves. And it's called, so once I get them equal, I can tighten it down, finish my bowline with a good cinching, and now I have two loops in case I want to do a double point, one here and one here to hold, do two different things. If I want to wrap something here or wrap something here. This is a Spanish bowline. Now I can use it just like a regular bowline with two loops down here. Great knot. Don't use it a whole bunch, but it's a good knot. What's another one I'm going to do? It's called a running bowline, and to me it's just a slip knot bowline. They call it a running bowline, but I don't think I would use this. I would probably use a overhand knot. But a running bowline is basically I tie a little bowline up, down, around, and I have a little bowline here. I have my bowline knot, and this becomes my loop for me to put it around something. And it's called a running bowline. So I still get the security, and if I put pressure, I can untie it because I still have my bowline, but I've basically made it to where I can run a line through it and adjust it to different things and loosen it. And then at the end of the day, if I need to untie my bowline, it's still a bowline knot. I just untie my bowline like I normally do. Break that little neck and it comes apart. So that's called a running bowline. So we did the regular, the Yosemite, the double, the Spanish with the two loops at the bottom, and we just did a running bowline. What was another one I wanted to cover? Oh, bowline on a bite. I love this one. So the bowline on a bite, what's a bite? Remember? Take a loop. That's a bite. So the bowline on a bite is a really secure knot. And because if you know all these knots, you can incorporate them. I can do a Yosemite finish, a double bowline, and a bowline on a bite. And I can put them all into one knot if I want to, if I'm really a safety Sally and really want things secure. Bowline on a bite. Normally I need a little bit longer rope, but I think I can do this. The loop will be small. So I have two ropes here. Forget these ends. Let's just say these two ends are infinity. We don't see them. So I take my loop and I do just like I'm going to do a regular bowline. I do an overhand knot with both ropes, and then I'm going to come up, but here's where it changes. Instead of going around and down the hole, this bite goes around the whole knot, comes up behind it, and now I have a bowline on a bite. Kind of looks like a bowline, but it ain't coming untied because the more I pull, the more this part pulls. The only way this comes undone is this rope or cut or taken out. This is a bowline on a bite. Really good secure knot. Now, I tied it one way. If you've got the ends available, or if you want to run, if you only have like 10 feet or 15 feet out, you can do it another way. So instead of doing my loop, coming around, coming up and taking this loop around the whole knot and putting it back up here for the bowline, like that, and then pulling it and tightening it. Instead of doing that, I just simply, when I come out with my loop, I just run my other line through this hole, and I've accomplished the same knot, a bowline with a bite. Very good secure knot. It's not real straight. I haven't finished it or fixed it, but it's a great strong knot. Bowline on a bite. I think I covered them all. Let me see what else if I forgot one. I had a little list here. Yosemite, running, already did. Spanish, already did. The French, already did. That was the 2 loops at the bottom instead of the double bowline. I thought I had another one that I wanted to try. Oh, the triple bowline. So the triple bowline, it's all right. I mean, if you need, see with this double bowline, I've got 2 loops here, kind of like the Spanish bowline. I have 2 on the top. I can use them together, or I can use them separately. The triple, I'm going to have 3 at the end. And I'm going to use the bowline on a bite to do this. I really need a long rope for this. So instead of putting my bowline with a bite here, see if I can remember how to do this one. Come up here. Shit. Kind of forgot. I think that's it. So if you didn't see what I did to end up with 3, I'll have to review that knot and check it out, because I think that's the way you did it, but I'm not sure. What's the other? The water one, I'm not a big fan of. It's kind of funky and it's too confusing. So I don't use the water bowline, but basically on the water bowline, which you end up, instead of having a regular bowline like so, I think you end up, maybe that's the Eskimo. Instead of going up, you come down, around, and then over and under, something like that. I can't remember what it was. But anyway, we're not going to do that one. So, the bowline knot, very versatile, very strong, very tough, and it holds a lot of weight, and you can untie it. So we did the regular bowline, the loop, the overhand loop, up, around, down. We did a double bowline, where you put, instead of 1 loop, you do 2 loops, up, around, and down the 2 loops. We did a Spanish bowline. You do the loop, and instead of coming up, you make a 2nd loop, and then you go around the tree and down, and you end up. And then we did the Yosemite finish, to where the tail comes up, around the outside and back, and you trace the knot back up through the back way to get your Yosemite finish. Now, what I didn't show you when I was talking about combining these things, let's do a double bowline. I'm going to do 2 of these on top, and I'm going to come up and around a double bowline, up and down, and I'm going to do a Yosemite finish. Come back around and bring this back up through here. And I didn't leave enough tail, but you get the idea. Now I have 3 loops here, Yosemite finish on a double bowline. So again, you can add these depending on how much security you want, how much you need, what you don't need. Bowline is a great freaking knot. Again, on rappelling, where I use a bowline is normally for a secondary safety line. If I have a line tied here and I'm going off a cliff here, I'm tying, I will put like a butterfly knot here. I just tied a slip knot. This isn't a butterfly, just for quick. I would tie a knot here, and then I will put this to another anchor point. That way, if my primary anchor point falls, this rope will be secured. Sometimes I'll use a bowline to collect those 2 lines, because when they get pressure, it's going to be downward pressure. It's not open pressure like so it's going to hold fine. Could I do figure 8s? I can. Takes a little more rope Takes a little more time because when you do a figure eight like that, you're going to have to re-thread it. I'm going to have to put it through, tie my figure eight, put it through, and then re-thread the figure eight so I have a good figure eight in order to tie over here. And if I do that on both ends, I'm eating up a lot of rope. So depending on how long my rope, how far my secondary tie-off point, my secondary anchor point, do I want to put up a second belay? Do I want to put up a Prusik knot to where I can put somebody down? Because in the military, when we'd go upside down, we would have guys on top controlling our descent. And then once we got to the right spot, we'd put a Prusik on there and it would just hold us. Then we could ignore him. And then when we pull him up, we use the Prusik knot to pull him up a little bit. We slide the Prusik down. We pull him up a little bit. We slide the Prusik down. And I'll go over the Prusik knot. I don't know if that'll be the next one, but that's the bowline. So now you guys have got the water knots, the webbing knots, the re-threaded overhand. You've got the bowline with a bite, the re-threaded bowline. Now you have, then you have the figure eight, re-threaded figure eight, and a figure eight with a bite. So I mean, you're getting, hopefully, if you're watching all of these, you're learning terminology, you're learning how to manipulate a rope. If you really want to learn these and understand these, you need to get you a piece of rope. Can be small. I mean, you can use this type of cordage, even this type of cordage. Oh shit, there goes my coffee. Damn. Ah, it's still good. I didn't ruin it. So I turned my camera around. So this type of cordage is good for your knots. It's a little stiff. This is a little bit softer and it's a little thinner. If you want to practice even, this isn't really strong, but it's very, very flexible. And this is a good knot. So if I want to just practice my little bowlines on this knot, I could do my little loop. I can come up, around, and down. And I have a nice little bowline there. And I can check it out. I got my tail. And I can look at the knot and how it looks. Usually, if you're looking for a good knot, you want a solid piece of rope versus a decorative rope because it's a little bit harder to see. On a solid rope, you can see it a little bit easier. And again, all these knots work with ribbon too. I can do the bowline, I can do a bowline with a bite, I can do the figure eight, I can do the re-threaded figure eight. It all works with the ribbon and the rope. It's just sometimes I think the ribbon, my only knots I really use is my double overhand and the overhand. That's about it for my ribbon. I don't do a whole bunch of other knots on my ribbon because it lays flat. I can check it. It looks nice. I know what I'm looking at. Shit. I don't know what the hell we'll do next, but brought my coffee out here and didn't drink the damn shit. So we'll get to some other things. I'm kind of oiling up some of my D-rings. They get kind of old. They sit around a long time. They get dusty. So, you know, you don't want oil on your D-ring to where it'll get on the rope because oil deteriorates the rope. But a drop of oil on your locking, your little spinning thing that locks, and where it has a little spring right here. Hopefully I'm on the right one. I can't tell. One of these is the right one. So I put a drop of oil here because that's the gate that goes up and down. And then I put a drop of oil in this thing that spins. And I don't know which one I'm using. And on the other ones, I usually just put a drop of oil on the gate, and then I wipe it off. So, got some of those out. And there's a little Moki zip line. See his little zip line right there? I think that's it. No, where's it at? Shit, it's above that. There it is. There's his little zip line hanger. It's upside down now, but anyway. And I didn't let him go by himself. I just kind of held on to him and hooked him up and moved him along. That rope isn't tied up real well. But anyway, I know everybody wants a video of him ziplining. If I do a video, then I gotta like set it up and put him up there by himself. So I don't know if I'm gonna do that. Anyway, we'll end that there on the bowline knots. Maybe I'll cut in, or maybe I'll just do a separate one where I tie them on a table or something. It's nice and easy. All right, we'll end that there. The bowline, very versatile, very strong. Not as strong as the figure eight, but unties after load much easier than probably most all other knots. We'll end that there. Okay, so let's do, I told you I'd do one on the table so you can kind of see it. So we have a rope here. I want to tie a bowline. This will be my working and running end. I'm going to do an overhand knot or overhand loop. It's on top, that's why it's overhand. If it was an underhand loop, it would look like so because this rope is underneath. We want an overhand loop for the bowline. Here's my loop I'm going to end up with. The bowline knot comes up through and around and then back down. I'm not used to doing this in a camera where I can see it. And then you tighten it up. And that is a standard bowline. Now we'll do the double bowline. we do our overhand knot. I'm going to take another overhand knot, trace right over the top of it. I have 2. Then I'm going to take my loop. I'm going to come up, around, and down both loops. Tighten one, tighten the other, and we have a double bowline. Okay, 2 loops here. Very strong knot. I'll tie that, and we'll do a regular bowline, overhand loop. We're going to come up, around, and down with a longer loop so I can do my Yosemite finish. So I have my bowline here, my Yosemite finish. This goes behind this rope, and then I trace this rope right up to here. This is the same rope here. I'm going to come behind, rethread and trace that rope there, and then come right up underneath here, tighten the top one, tighten the bottom one, tighten the top one, tighten the bottom one, and now I have a bowline with a Yosemite finish. The top's at the top. I don't know if this makes it easier than me holding my hand. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. Let's take a look at the Spanish bowline here. Remember, we did a overhand loop, and where this comes up through the loop, instead of going behind, I'm going to adjust these 2 loops here. 1, how big I want them, and 2. So now that I have these 2 loops, I come up around again because I did 2 loops. The 2 loops go over your loop here. I don't know if I made that clear. Let me redo this. So when I come up through here, I make my loop, and then I go back down and make my second loop, and then I come up. And when I come up this time, I'm ready to do my regular bowline. I come up, around, and down. I set it. Even if the loops are different, they will adjust and they will become equal. So even if they're different, doesn't matter. I adjust them. I tighten it down. If I wanted to make this longer, I could finish this off with a Yosemite finish, and I would have a Spanish bowline, which gives me 2 loops with a Yosemite finish if I wanted to use Yosemite finish. And then the bowline with a bite. So I take a double rope. Here's my bite, the whole rope. I put in my overhand loop. It's on top. I come up, and instead of going around or back down, this loop has to get around this back part here. And I can either do it this way if I have the ends and then tighten my knot. If I don't have the ends and this is way off here, when I come up here, I need to loosen this and come all the way around my complete knot, and I end up with it around it, and then I tighten it and dress it. And I have a bowline on a bite. There's my bite. Okay? Hopefully that helped. I don't know if I covered them all. I think Spanish, double, bowline on a bite, so somebody finish. All right, I'll add that in at the end in case somebody wants to sit around and watch. Lynette there?